Yeah, I put a blog item up once it get religion, and I think the headline was something like, none of you will comment on this post. Yeah. And it was a post praising a New York Times story about something in international news. I mean, like, you know, so you put up something positive, you put up something global, no comments whatsoever. Anglican wars, comments. I'm Terry Mattingly, and I'd like to stress that I want to wear my communications professor hat here for a while instead of my Get Religion hat. I've been genuinely fascinated with blogging for about 5 years, and I want to thank Deborah Mason for inviting me recently to take part in the AJMC conference in Chicago, which gave me a chance to process a little bit of this, so I'm sharing some of what I said then. I want to start by mentioning Steve Waldman's wonderful quip about how to handle negative comments on a religion blog. Steve said at BeliefNet they have a basic rule about doctrinal fights in the comments pages, and it goes something like this. In a comment on BeliefNet, you are allowed to say, "My faith teaches that because of what you believe, you're going to hell." You are not allowed to say, "My faith teaches that what you believe means you're going to hell, and I would like to assist in that process," you know, as quickly as possible. And I thought that was kind of an interesting way of drawing the line. And if you're going to write about religion, comments pages can get just that wild, just that fast. But first of all, let me back off for a second. I have a slightly different view of what a blog is. Coming out of the University of Illinois, I tend to view everything in the old technology shapes content frame. A blog can be a lot of different things, and I really noticed this first watching the excellent work done by the NOLA.com folks in the wake of Katrina, back in that stage when they were facing the problem. It's very hard to publish a newspaper when your presses are underwater. And so they, of course, went to a blog. And over a period of time, you saw this fascinating mix of material emerge in their blog on Katrina. And essentially, it was like a 24/7 hard news wire service. They were putting traditional news in there when it broke. Now, how many of you have facets of your online product that's doing that now? You're not waiting for the paper, are you? You're going ahead and putting it up. Well, some of that's occurring within a blog. Second, you had ridiculously in-depth niche coverage, things you could have never had room for in a newspaper. And third, you had what we think of as blogging, which is the first-person analytical sharing. What in the ancient days when I was a reporter, we would often call reporters' notebooks. In effect, that's kind of what we're doing now and calling it blogging to some degree. Now, if you want to see an example of what I'm talking about at the moment, go to chron.com, the Houston Chronicle, and look at the amazing work over the last week of Eric Berger, who writes under the slug line Sci Guy. And essentially, I think they have duct taped him to a cot at the Chronicle and had him blog the hurricane for like a week. And you'll see this same mixture of these three types of content emerging. A number of years ago, we had Washington's equivalent of a hurricane, Cat 5 at least, which is 2 open seats on the U.S. Supreme Court simultaneously. I don't know if people go out and buy bottled water during something like that, but it definitely affects traffic, and there's panic. And the Washington Post put up a blog that essentially did the same thing. Round-the-clock coverage of a hard news fashion, in-streamed with the blog. First-person pieces, what feminist groups are ordering pizza, what are Robert's children wearing today, and then below that, ridiculously in-depth niche coverage, like every single decision he's ever written about abortion, annotated, highlighted, URL, here's the documents. Can you do that in a regular newspaper? But it was in this blog. So to some degree, some of these questions about how candid should we be, how editorial should we be, you can do blogs in totally different styles. So what fits your newspaper's job description for you might be quite different. We shouldn't assume, in my opinion, that I think there are 2 kinds of blogs in the world. One is what I call first-person obsessive. You know, and that's the, you know, what am I wearing on my couch and my cat ate this for dinner blog. And the other is what I call a law firm blog, which is where you have a number of people who have actual credentials in a subject. and you go to that blog expecting some degree of credibility based on their reputations and your ability to check out their information. I think the law firm blog approach is what newspapers should be going toward. First of all, I think if it's one person alone, I think burnout really, really does factor in. Plus, if you're breaking a story and you need to go away for 3 days, it's nice to have someone else involved in the blog carrying that load so you don't just shut down. I'm not opposed to the individual blogs. I'm saying that for the purpose of news, I think the law firm approach works better, okay? Now at Get Religion, we have essentially 3 purposes, and I think it's, you know, the hot thing in the 90s for religious groups was writing your mission statement. Well, essentially we have a mission statement at Get Religion. We are not a religion news blog, and it's so hard to explain that to people. We're a blog about how the press wrestles with religion coverage.